Tonight, Canada expels 6 Indian diplomats over an investigation into homicides and other criminal acts in this country.
Leverage their official position to engage in clandestine activities.
Warning of public safety threats and the alleged link to the murder of a Sikh separatist leader.
We will never tolerate the involvement of a foreign government threatening and killing Canadian citizens.
The major deterioration of diplomatic relations.
The extent of Indian interference in Canada is just scary.
New polls show a dead heat just weeks before the U.S. election.
So good to have you here.
All eyes on a critical battleground in the race to the White House. The expense of being entertained through streaming services.
This is going to be the first year that Spotify actually makes a profit.
What's behind the rising rates? Plus, giving thanks is good for you.
It is so important to share love.
The lessons learned when you share a meal with strangers.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Butts.
Good evening. In a stunning move, Canada has expelled 6 top Indian diplomats. Serious and shocking allegations revealed by the RCMP during a rare news conference on Thanksgiving Monday, warning the public of safety threats linked to Indian government officials. India quickly retaliated, ordering 6 Canadian diplomats to leave that country within a week. The expulsions represent a deepening deterioration of diplomatic relations between the two countries. CTV's Colton Prail starts us off.
Canada has told 6 Indian officials to leave the country, claiming they're connected to a targeted campaign of violence and intimidation against Canadian citizens.
It is obvious that the government of India made a fundamental error in thinking that they could engage in supporting criminal activity.
In a rare public announcement, the RCMP says it has evidence tying Indian officials in Canada to multiple homicides, extortions, and the use of gangs to target members of the South Asian community. But neither the RCMP nor the government would say how many Canadian deaths they're investigating.
Investigations have revealed that Indian diplomats and consular officials based in Canada leverage their official position to engage in clandestine activities.
It's the latest increase in tensions between the two countries that have been escalating since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused the Indian government of being involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent Sikh independence activist who was shot outside a BC Gurdwara in June last year. Today, Global Affairs saying the 6 expelled Indian officials are persons of interest in the Nijjar case.
We're not seeking diplomatic confrontation with India, but we will not sit quietly as agents of any country are linked to efforts to threaten, harass, or even kill Canadians, period.
RCMP say they've charged 8 people in relation to murder investigations, 22 others in extortion cases, and in the last year have had to warn more than a dozen people in Canada connected to the pro-Khalistan movement about credible threats to their life. India has long opposed the pro-Khalistan movement, which seeks to create a separate homeland for Sikhs. Police also say their investigation revealed foreign interference in Canada's democracy, something Sikh Canadians have warned about for years.
The extent of Indian interference in Canada is just scary. And this coming out, it's got to be a step towards accountability. So this can't be the end of the road.
The RCMP presented evidence to India this week and asked them to lift some officials' diplomatic immunity, but India declined, instead withdrawing its top representative in Canada and other diplomats. In a statement, India rejected the allegations, accusing Canada of providing no evidence and smearing India for political gains. Meanwhile, Canada's top diplomatic official in India and 5 others were expelled by New Delhi and asked to leave by Saturday.
This has unfolded in a way that is really unique and troubling, and clearly something that puts Canada and India at an all-time low.
The Conservatives are calling for a full criminal prosecution of anyone involved. The NDP say Canada needs to do more, like sanctioning India. Meanwhile, Melanie Joly says everything is on the table. Heather.
Colton, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelos. There is a lot to break down here, Vassy. We know the U.S. is trying to expand its relationship with India. So where does this leave Canada? This is going to have major political implications.
Well, there was a world, I should say, Heather, in which Canada was doing something similar to the United States. In particular, think about its Indo-Pacific strategy, just recently released. The Indo and Indo-Pacific is India. The idea that the U.S. and other like-minded allies had is to strengthen and amplify their ties with India to counter China's growing, essentially, power in the world, and in particular in that part of the world. What happens now is the big question I have. I mean, it's hard to overstate just how significant this is. This isn't one of our adversaries like Iran, where we break off diplomatic relations and it's kind of expected given events. I mean, the severity of what's being alleged here is incredibly serious. It's not to be taken away from. But this is one of the world's biggest democracies. And essentially what we have today is a complete breakdown of diplomatic relations with that country. I was very curious to figure out exactly how it got to this point. I've been speaking to as many people as I can in and around, in particular, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And in the RCMP, really what was being conveyed to me is that they felt they had no choice, particularly after what happened over the weekend, where the RCMP presented its evidence and essentially they allege India didn't want to see it, that they had no choice. They kept saying to me over and over again, than to make it public today and do it in the fashion they did. That's certainly the impetus, they said, behind today's announcement. But boy, oh boy, Heather, it's significant.
Absolutely. So, Vassy, how would you then characterize India's response and what plays out next?
I think it's really expected, and I feel like everyone is kind of digging their heels in, particularly, I mean, we understand the Canadian case, certainly from what we heard today, but I don't expect the impasse to solve itself. What I'll be watching for is, does a sort of mediator or interlocutor step forward, and is it the United States? We heard that Minister Joly spoke to her counterpart in the United States. What comes of that? Are they the ones that get involved that help break this impasse? I mean, that's a big question mark for me, Heather.
Vassy Kapelos joining us this evening. Thank you. Just over 3 weeks until the U.S. presidential election, and the latest polling shows the race is in a dead heat. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump took their fight to Pennsylvania today, the largest battleground state. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin.
In this presidential race where every vote will count, it's a nail-biter. Poll after national poll shows Kamala Harris and Donald Trump statistically neck and neck.
But here's the thing. This is going to be a tight race until the very end. And with your help, in 22 days, we will win. We will win.
Casting herself as the change candidate, Harris is reaching out to black male voters, pitching forgivable loans for black entrepreneurs, money for training programs, and a promise to legalize marijuana nationally. Since the Democratic National Convention, support seems to be softening as Harris tries to rebuild the coalition that elected Joe Biden and Barack Obama. In the suburbs of Philly, Donald Trump also mining for votes. His message has grown darker, demonizing immigrants, promising mass deportations. His campaign believes it's helping him.
Many are coming in from jails and prisons and mental institutions, insane asylums. We have sick puppies coming into our country.
And this is troubling. Trump says he'll use the military against what he calls political enemies if he's reelected.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
Harris tonight went after Trump.
Those people are more dangerous, the enemy from within.
Playing his words at her rally and warning.
We know who he would target. Election officials who refuse to cheat. Judges who insist on following the law. A second Trump term would be a huge risk for America and dangerous.
Both candidates taking their fight to crucial battleground states with just 22 days to go. This race as close and tight and tense as ever. Heather?
Joy, thank you. In the Middle East, Israel has rejected accusations it targeted UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon.
Israel repeatedly asked UNIFIL to get out of harm's way. It repeatedly asked them to temporarily leave the combat zone.
Israel claims militant group Hezbollah uses the peacekeepers as cover. UNIFIL says it is staying in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, health officials say an Israeli airstrike in the north killed at least 21 people. In central Gaza, the Israeli military said it was targeting a Hamas command center when it struck a tent area near a hospital, killing several people. In New York, new allegations of sexual assault and rape against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The lawsuits, filed anonymously on behalf of 2 women and 4 men in federal court today. One man claims he was 16 when he was sexually assaulted by Combs at a famous white party in the Hamptons. The 54-year-old has pleaded not guilty to the charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking. A judge denied his latest bid for bail. Millions of people are in the grips of catastrophic hunger. In Alberta, farmers and volunteers are harvesting their generosity to help others in different parts of the world. Here's CTV's Rachel Crowe spreading wings on the program grown right here in Canada.
Farmers like Brad Glesman gather to harvest this 150-acre canola crop just outside of Leduc, Alberta.
We actually provide the food for the world. Our spirit is about giving back to the community.
Taking part in the harvest is a family tradition.
My dad's on the committee for the food grains, but before that, we always were involved.
Over 14 combine operators fire their engines ready to harvest the grain. Landowner Peter Brower says the only reason why he bought the lot was specifically for this project.
I didn't want to farm it myself, so between my wife and myself, we decided food grains was a well-worth project.
For over 40 years, farmers who are part of the Canadian Food Grains Bank donate their time, energy, and equipment to the harvest and don't see a nickel.
We don't actually ship any grain. It all is turned into cash, and that cash is used in, right now, about 35 different countries.
The reasons the crops themselves are not shipped overseas, some crops may not be used, and local farmers in those countries also need to make an income of their own. Jensen says Alberta alone generates 30 different harvests around the province. Adding through a grant, the Canadian government also matches donations made directly to the organization. Rachel Crowe, Spreading Wings, CTV News, south of Leduc.
Streaming services are becoming more expensive for Canadians. Spotify recently announced it's raising prices just months after a similar hike. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on the growing trend and the reasons why.
Spotify is eating into a chunk of Canadian household budgets, and now subscription rates are on the rise. By the end of the year, individual accounts will go up $1.70 per month before taxes. The Duo package is going up by almost $3. Family subscribers will pay an extra $4. Music publicist Eric Alper says this comes at a time when Spotify's business is booming.
This is going to be the first year that Spotify actually makes a profit.
Alper says music streaming platforms pay lots of money to rights holders, and those fees increase each year. Spotify has also expanded its content.
Now that they have went into the podcasting game, that's even more content for them to pay out. So not only are you looking at 120 million songs available, now you're looking at tens of millions of podcasters.
According to technology analyst Carmi Levy, this latest cost climb is part of an industry trend, and Spotify is not alone.
Every year, Spotify and other streaming providers hike their rates to Canadians.
In these times of high inflation, Levy says many Canadians are deciding which streaming services they should cancel.
It's almost like a frog in a pot of water. You increase the temperature just a little bit at a time. You don't really notice it, but eventually you realize it's really hot. It's time to get out.
Economist Moshe Lander calls this a gamble by Spotify that will likely pay off.
I would guess that they're probably going to increase the number of subscribers that they have because they're on a very, very strong
upward trend.
If Spotify adds new customers at a time when they are charging higher fees, experts predict they'll become an even more dominant platform with the ability to squeeze out their competitors. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Coming up, separating students from their cell phones.
At the start of the year, I really didn't think it was going to work.
Are school phone policies a success? Bath & Body Works is apologizing for selling a candle shoppers say looked like Ku Klux Klan hoods. The retailer has stopped selling its new winter-themed candle after online criticism over the paper snowflake design. Bath & Body Works said it's committed to fixing any mistakes, even those that are unintentional, like this one. With the school year well underway, the new cell phone rules have been put to the test. It's a cultural shift for some that others are giving a passing grade. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
A new school year rang in new rules around cell phones. The bans differ across jurisdictions, but the aim is the same: cut cell phone use out of class. 1 month in, so far, so good.
The feedback that we've been getting from teachers and administrators and school communities is that it's been very positive.
That report card from New Brunswick's teachers echoes what's being said in Alberta.
They are surprised that they haven't seen the pushback that they were anticipating to happen.
Teachers had worried about policing the new policy.
But students have been really respectful of it.
Instead, another pattern emerged.
Generally, I've noticed more focus and less distractions among my students.
But what do students think?
I feel like it's a lot more social in some classes. Like, people are talking directly to each other, not just scrolling on their phones a lot more.
In some classrooms, phones are kept in backpacks. In others, they're put in a pouch like this.
I've only seen a couple people put burner phones in there, and that's going to like pretty extreme lengths to do that. But some people just put their case in there and teachers don't notice.
Students say the majority of their peers follow the rules, even if some don't.
I am surprised because at the start of the year, I really didn't think it was going to work.
And as a result,
the classroom is very different because I find more people are paying attention in class more.
And seemingly paying more attention to each other. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Still ahead tonight. 2 Oilers fans get the trip of their dreams. NASA's Europa Clipper blasted off on a historic 5-year mission to explore Jupiter's icy moon and find out whether it can support life.
1, ignition, and liftoff.
For decades, an icy moon of Jupiter named Europa has been considered one of the most promising places to search for extraterrestrial life in the solar system. It's thought to have an underground ocean. The probe will travel 1.8 billion miles over about 5.5 years. It's expected to enter Jupiter's orbit in 2030. Well, a lifelong trip for twins from northern Alberta became a reality. They were gifted tickets to watch their favorite NHL team, the Edmonton Oilers. The joy of hockey has helped them connect with others, and as CTV's Evan Kenny tells us, they scored a memory they'll never forget.
And we are underway at Rogers Place.
The Friesen family is still basking in the moment, being among the sea of 17,000 at Rogers Place Saturday night. It was Mason and Peyton's first live game.
My favorite part was stepping in this building, first time ever coming to Rogers Place, and it is the best arena in NHL history.
The Twins are some of the biggest Oilers fans in their hometown, 5 hours northwest of Edmonton, near Grand Prairie. Their mom says growing up, they wouldn't wear pajamas unless they were Oilers themed. The boys have also been called 2 of the nicest and happiest people.
I've never seen him get frustrated or upset or mad with anything at work, and he's just always positive, super positive kid. Both of them always seem to be happy.
That's why one of Mason's bosses was happy to give the family his tickets.
I said, listen, Mason, for your hard work this year, I'd really love to give you and your family some Oilers tickets. You can have my tickets for a game, the Kenny game, and they chose the Chicago one.
Mason and Peyton have autism, and hockey is one of the ways they connect with others.
And you think, wow, so thankful that we have such an amazing community who is so supportive and so inclusive.
The boys say the energy inside the arena is unmatched, and when Corey Perry scored Edmonton's first goal of the season,
it was like 100 fans were just screaming like eagles out. I was jumping up and down, really excited to see him score that goal.
And while the game ended in a losing effort,
that made my day so much to come in first Oilers game.
The family says they are forever thankful for the experience. Evan Kenny, CTV News, Edmonton.
You can see how excited they are. After the break, guess who's coming to dinner? Total strangers gather to give thanks. A BC man is sharing his gratitude for the total strangers who took him up on an invite to his home for a Thanksgiving feast. And as CTV's Adam Sawatsky explains, his generous offer isn't about the food.
James Taylor never expected to be walking home with a bag full of groceries he didn't buy.
Because 6 weeks ago I was in a really bad place.
James had experienced multiple losses in his family and was set to spend Thanksgiving alone.
And I know that it's important to have people around and to feel loved and to share good food.
So he posted this invitation on a community Facebook page, offering to cook dinner for 4 strangers who might be feeling the same way.
Please don't be alone. Reach out, DM me.
One of the people who accepted James's invitation is Nicole Borthwick.
I was relieved that somebody actually reached out.
Nicole is temporarily away from her family and couldn't feel more grateful to not be alone this Thanksgiving.
Very heartfelt, very emotional.
Well, James's post is proving to be very popular. More than 300 people responded, and he's preparing to make dinner for more than a dozen of them.
If I could fit everyone in my house, I would, but I have such a small space. I have now 3 sittings, so I'm happy for that.
Well, to appreciate why James is so joyful about stocking his fridge and juggling so many small appliances in such a compact space, you need to know he's been struck by lightning twice.
I died and came back to life, and I know how precious that is, how lucky I am to have this second chance.
And James is using his second chance at life to work as an Indigenous educator in schools and practice sharing kindness daily.
It is so important to share love.
And others seem to agree by offering food even if they're not attending. This morning, one stranger dropped off 2 pumpkin pies, and another just gave James this bag full of vegetables.
Humble.
And fittingly, full of thanks.
12, 15 new friends coming, so it's beautiful.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Saanich.
A lovely way to spend Thanksgiving. We hope you've enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Omar and Sandy will be here tomorrow. Good night.